Hello, friends, and welcome to the space where we discuss business, landscaping, beer, and everything in between. I'm your host, Heather Gerard from My Landscape Artist here in London, Ontario, Canada. And this is Season 2 of Hops and Hedges. Stay tuned after each episode for a message from our sponsor, Ext.Tech. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Now crack open a cold one, and let's dig in. There you go. We are now recording. With me today is Dave Wright, the one and only from Wright Landscape Inc. And you are in Kitchener, Cambridge area.
Yeah, Kitchener-Waterloo. Yep.
Right? Yeah. So Wright. Okay. Wright Landscape Services. Yes. Yep. I have so many questions for you. You have been a staple in Landscape Ontario, Congress, the green trade industry profession for just a couple of years, huh, Dave?
Yeah, I was born into it.
Yeah, so you were kind of right from the get-go.
Yeah, for sure.
So did you grow up always thinking, like, the plan was always that you were going to take over a family business or that you were going to do landscaping? Or can you let us know, what's your origin story?
Well, so my dad started a business in the Wright lawn spray service back in 1967. I always wanted to be like my dad. And so I used to work alongside him and ride around in his truck and do diagnostics on lawns, and I could find chinch bugs like crazy in someone's lawn. And yeah, I was going to follow in his footsteps. And then getting into high school, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go be a pilot. I'm going to go into the armed forces and be a fighter pilot. You know, it was right around that.
Wow, I didn't know that.
When Top Gun came out, you know, it was that
would do it, yeah.
Yeah, did it for me. And so then I realized that, number one, to join the Canadian Armed Forces, you got to speak French. Because officers, and only officers fly. And I realized I had to be really good at math, too. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do this. So I decided one day, and I was working my summers working for my dad's company and doing some landscape construction. And I decided, you know, my back isn't going to last forever doing this. I'm going to be a landscape architect.
Okay.
So I went to my one of the guidance counselors at high school and said, I want to be a landscape architect. How do I get into this? So I went through kind of checking out what that was all about, and that's what I ended up doing. I went to school to be a landscape architect. My parents were floored because I hated school.
Yeah.
I took a 5-year university program.
Wow.
And just barely squeaked in with my not so great marks. And then, so I did 5 years of school, and 29 years later, I am still working as a landscape architect.
Wow. That's so cool. So where did you go? Sorry, it was Guelph that you did?
Yeah, I went to Guelph. Yeah.
Wow. Very cool. It's such an incredible world. Just kind of like, how many times for how many of us does this start as a summer job or some way to spend time, save money, get through school, and then we come back to it?
Yeah. Yeah. And that was like, I went away and worked as a landscape architect in a bunch of offices around all over the place. I was in, started my career with what's now Stantec.
Yep.
In Cambridge. And then I went to, after I finished school, I got a job working in Houston, Texas, and then Vancouver. And so after about 10 years of working in consulting, I decided, I didn't like not having control over the project. So you're designing something, but then you're giving it to someone else to build, and then you don't know if it's ever going to be maintained. And I saw projects just turn into crap, and it really bugged me. So I came up with this idea of this, design, build, maintain, and it's a circle.
I know. I was reading that on your pre-interview questionnaire, and I really like that. Can you share us with that? What is
sure.
What is it you're talking about?
You design it so it can be built. You build it so it can be maintained, and you maintain it like it was designed. And it is a full circle.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw a project. I remember doing this project at Tillicum Mall in Saanich, BC, and going back the next year to do a warranty review, and they hadn't maintained it at all. It would look like crap. It just blew me away that someone would spend so much money, going through the whole design stuff and building it, and then it would just turn into crap.
Yeah.
So my dad was looking at retiring, and I asked him if I could come on board and kind of take over. And so I did that, and here I am
Here you
24 years
are.
later doing the same thing
Wow. And
in a
so it
much
was
bigger
actually
way.
you. So you initiated the like, okay, Dad, I'm ready to take over the reins.
Yeah, and it was he was trying to sell the company at the time. They were mostly lawn spray at those time at that time, and he really didn't
Hmm.
want to sell to a big box company. He wanted to, to become the mom and pop style, and they were no longer at that time, and that was early 2000s.
Wow.
So
And I mean, now you do everything. You do snow, you
yeah,
do snow removal, you do winter maintenance,
yeah,
installation, design, you do a little bit of
yeah.
everything.
The only thing we don't do anymore is the lawn spray. I sold that division in
Interesting.
2019. It wasn't my passion.
Right.
And it was at a time where, when pesticides were banned and the cosmetic use was banned in Ontario, and actually 10 years after that. And we weren't growing it, and there was no passion there to do, the R&D required to really make it into a profitable thing.
Hmm.
So I sold it to it's kind of interesting. His dad and my dad were competitors, and he came back to the business and started, I guess, from scratch, but still his name was the same. And
Yep.
and he approached me one day and said, "What do you think?" And I sold the division to him, and some employees went along with it too. So those customers were still getting the same service because it was my employees, my original employees that were
Right.
servicing them, and to this day we still work together, and they do all our spraying and our stuff on our maintenance accounts, and
That's
and
so
those two
cool.
employees still work there. So it's always fun to see them, and
Yeah.
yeah,
It's interesting with the spray too. I don't think a lot of people, especially people who are new to the industry and profession, have no idea the insurance implications and the amount of training, certification, and what
yeah,
you have to stay on top of in order to maintain your spray license.
that's right, yeah.
Like it is a whole thing.
Yeah, and I had no passion for it, so I was like, I'm just gonna let this one go.
Right. Excellent. It's knowing knowing what you're good at and what you enjoy doing
Absolutely.
and what you can sell.
Yeah,
And if you don't have all three of those things, then maybe it's time for somebody else
for sure. Yeah,
to
yeah,
help out with that.
yeah.
So I've got lots of questions for you, but very important question for you, Dave. What are you drinking?
I am drinking a little, and I got the bottle here in front of me. It's a Basil Hayden bourbon. And
Okay.
it's, well, fortunately, unfortunately, I
Yeah.
just poured out the last bit, and there's the last drop right there, and I can't buy any more because they've just taken it off the shelves in
Uh,
Mexico.
so it's an
So,
American product.
so I'm gonna later, my next one, I'm gonna switch over to Writer's Tears, which is a wonderful Irish whiskey.
Excellent.
Very different, but I am a bourbon drinker. I really enjoy it.
Good choice. I like every once in a while I'll have a whiskey, scotch, or bourbon,
Yeah,
and but my problem is that I can't just have one. Like, why is that? It's just so delicious. I can't
I know there's
just
something in it.
there's something in it. So it becomes a very dangerous drink for me. So
Absolutely.
I save scotch, bourbon, and whiskey for special occasions, or whiskey if I'm making a hot toddy. So if I have any kind
Okay.
of throat thing going on,
Yeah,
then it's hot toddy, cinnamon whiskey,
yeah,
or whatever we've got in the bar.
yeah.
So I'm actually drinking a super weird one for me because I think on your questionnaire too, you mentioned that you like the hoppy,
Yeah, I
lots of
like hoppy beers.
flavor,
Yeah.
right? So I too like the stronger beers, the IPAs, the weird beers, as we call them. This is an extra strong beer at 10.3%.
Oh
So if
wow.
I start slurring, you know,
I won't
we'll
notice I'm
just
drinking whiskey.
perfect. And no, I'm sure nobody else watching on the internet will also know,
No.
right? It'll just be our secret. But this is one from Flying Monkeys. So this is an Ontario beer and brewery. But I'm always such a fan of can art and
Oh
just
yeah.
what people
And
do.
Flying Monkey does some amazing can art.
So good. So this one is called Alien Mastermind, and I totally just picked it up from the can art. I don't know if you
Oh
can see
yeah.
it, but it is,
The
and
big
it made me
brain.
think of Mars Attacks.
Yeah,
You know that movie?
absolutely.
So good. And I didn't realize until I brought it home that it is a mango haze triple IPA. And I don't usually like fruit in my beer, but it'll work.
There
So
you go.
cheers to you, Dave.
Cheers.
Cheers. Mm-mm-mm. Yep, it's fruity, but it'll do. Mango always makes me think of like tropical warm weather too.
For
So,
sure. Yeah.
did you guys get lots of rain today? That's a
We
total
did. We had lots of
random
rain,
question, but
and when I left the office, it was really foggy because the snow was melting pretty quick. It was at one point today I saw it was 12 degrees, so it was the snow is on its way out, and I'm
yeah. And
quite
we
happy.
had, I'm not sure about your area, but I mean, we've been buried under probably 3 feet, like 3.5 feet of snow
Yeah.
for
We got between
a
3 and 4 feet, and in that sort of 2 week period in the middle of February.
and then it just stayed.
Yeah.
Like it didn't. So have you started getting calls yet about drainage or water issues, or
No,
too
no,
early?
no, but they'll come.
Yeah, I think this year it's going to be one of those kind of years.
Yeah.
Um, so one of the things that I really like doing on this podcast, because I can't thank my own mentors enough, and I feel so grateful to members of the peer-to-peer network and members of Landscape Ontario, that when I hit a wall and I hit rock bottom and a wall at the same time, right? That my network really pulled me out. And so I'm a
Yeah.
huge believer in mentorship. And I would like to give you the opportunity to kind of give a little shout out for your mentors. There was a few
Sure.
people that you mentioned out, and let's talk about them.
What's interesting about mentors is that you don't necessarily just have one mentor in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And really it's a stages and phases of your life. And I remember getting out of school and doing getting my first job and learning the craft of being a landscape architect. And I worked very closely with Ken Buck, who was he was a prof at the University of Guelph, or was a sessional lecturer at the University of Guelph, and I ended up
Hmm.
working with him for a few years.
Yep.
And when I moved to Texas, I worked for SWA Group there and in Houston. And there was an old guy in the office, Ed Kagi, and he uh, he just kind of took me under his wing, and he just wanted to teach me everything that he knew. And so it was really interesting to work with him and hear the
Mm-hmm.
stories of projects and working with, especially with a famous company like that that's well known across North America. It was kind of cool.
Yeah.
When I worked in Vancouver, I worked at when I first started, it was called Phillips Worry Long Landscape Architects, and it became the PWL Partnership, which it is today. And Jeffrey Phillips was a big influence on who I am and what I did when I worked in Vancouver, and I really enjoyed his mentorship and I became he was a certified arborist. My dad was as well, but he was a certified arborist, and I got the itch to be an arborist out there as well. So I did all my
Hmm.
certification, and he helped me through that whole process, and it was very interesting, and I learned a lot from that guy.
Yep.
And when I moved back in 2002 and to take over the business, I kind of jumped into working with my dad again and went looking for someone who could kind of help steer me through the whole process. And I met Hank Gelderman, and he really kind of very interested. He always wants to help everybody. He wants to help a lot of newcomers into the industry. And at the time, he was running quite a big company, and his company is much bigger now
Mm-hmm.
that Nathan's running it. But he was, I would certainly say that he was one of my mentors early on in my career in Ontario. So
Yeah. Just incredible. I like how you said, like different people, different stages and phases,
yeah, for sure.
right? It's not always one person that gets you from start to the finish line.
Yeah,
It's at every certain marker, there's people that really kind of push or pull you
well,
to
exactly.
into or where you need to be.
And
So,
now I'm looking at who can I mentor, and it's not something that that you can make happen. It just happens, and then you realize one
right.
day, oh, I've been helping this guy along and
Mm-hmm.
mentoring him, and or this person and helping them along in their career. And I try and do that with with new designers coming out of school,
Yep.
I, as much as I hate to lose designers working for me, I look at it as it's a stepping stone in their career to come
Right.
and work for me and learn how things go together and learn from someone who, hey, I've got some experience. I've had failures. I've had things go right. I've had some amazing projects that are still standing that I
Hmm.
built a long time ago, and it's fun to teach and pass on that information to new people to the industry.
It's such an interesting shift, right? Like we kind of have this moment, I think, as professionals, and I mean, I might be just speaking out of the I don't know where because I've only been 12 years in the profession,
Yeah.
right? So hopefully I actually qualify to apply for that not grandfathering in, but the CLD
Yeah.
certification. So knock on wood, we might see maybe this year. Um, but there's this kind of point where you recognize looking back and you see all of these people and situations and organizations, whichever, all these opportunities and experiences that have brought you to where you are. And
Yeah.
then looking forward, you start to think, okay, I'm not done growing. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm still expanding. But who can I now teach? Even though I'm still learning, all of this I've already learned to
Well,
this point.
absolutely.
Who can I help along the
Yeah.
way? It's such an interesting shift, mind shift.
And I've been involved with peer groups for a very long time, and with my first peer group was a next generation business owner peer group, and I was in a
Hmm.
group with a bunch of guys we're still friends to this day. We still meet on occasion. Very diversified businesses from theme parks to hotels to
Wow.
gyms to construction companies, developers, very different kind of stuff. And then I got into the Jeffrey Scott system, and I was in one
Yep.
of his, or I was actually in his very first peer group, and I've been in and out with them, and I'm now with this whole trade war, I'm thinking I might have to get out again, but I don't do that right away. Maybe
Hmm.
it'll all be over in a short time, but it's always an opportunity to share experiences and what I've learned and some of the failures and some of the things that I've done wrong and share that with people so that they don't end up doing it.
Right.
And there's times when I wish that I had some different learning experiences when I was younger in my career with people that had some bigger, mistakes and that I could have avoided doing some of those mistakes myself. So,
Hmm. Oh, I hear you loud and clear.
oh
I
yeah,
think I've made some of those too, and then some of them I think I was personally and professionally very close to making.
yeah,
And then it just took somebody saying the right thing at the right time,
that's right.
where it was like, oh, I needed this message right now because I was
Yeah,
just about to go down a rabbit hole that I don't want to go down.
exactly.
So,
Good.
what else was I going to ask you? So many things. Let me just bring this out here. So you're in a um oh sorry, uh forgive my brain, ADHD. So I was gonna jump ahead, but actually I'm gonna rewind, pretend that didn't happen. It's okay, it's just the internet. So I really liked what you mentioned when you were just talking about being a stepping stone,
Yeah,
because this is something that I've heard a few guests on the podcast talk about. And it's really inspired me to start thinking of myself too, because now I'm a potential employer
yeah,
where I've spent the majority of my 12 years in the profession as an employee. But now that I have my own business, that which I started during COVID, it's I'm seeing this opportunity where I could also be a stepping stone employer,
yeah,
where I'm bringing in co-op students, I'm teaching them and I'm training them and I'm showing them what I know, and then sending them back to school,
yeah.
right? But that is such an interesting concept, especially when we look at how high turnover seems to be.
Well, yeah, and the other thing too is you got to think about, you know, the whole ego thing. Like I don't get when someone comes and works, someone from the design field comes and works for me. It's more about of what can how can I make them better, and how can I learn from them? And nine
Yep.
times out of 10, I'm hiring them because they're better at something than I am. But oftentimes they're a few years, they're right out of school or a few years out of school, and um, I've had a passion for, I wouldn't say I'm a great designer, but I think I have great projects. And it's about taking that design and making it buildable and making it so that it's not going to fall apart. And
Right.
sometimes you lose a bit of that funky creativity doing that. But sometimes if I'm working with a designer who has that funky side to them, you can kind of just make it that much better by making sure that it is buildable, that the base is right, that the structure is right, and that the
Yeah.
grading is right, and all that stuff that a lot of designers struggle with.
Yep.
And that's really my strength is making it work. And
Hmm.
if I can teach some new designers coming up how to make it work and think in 3D, so they're
Right.
not just looking at that item that's above the ground, but what's going on underground, what's going on inside it,
Right.
concrete structure, what does the rebar look like, what does the base look like, how does the drainage work around it, and all that stuff is so important.
Yep.
And a lot of designers just forget about that. They come up with a funky idea and it looks beautiful, but it's okay because
Yep.
it's the execution, it falls apart. Um, so if I can help a designer become really good by having that funky design
Hmm.
and making it buildable and knowing that it's buildable, I just look at that as a feather in my cap that I've passed that on to them. And,
Yeah.
having a small office and we do design build, not everybody wants to do design build. And a lot of people want to do it as to learn how things go together. And so I get a young landscape architect or a young designer will come through and they'll move on to a big office.
Hmm.
And I always say to them, you know what? You're moving on to a big office, and you're now probably the most trained person in that office for, doing construction drawings and doing um, thorough, readable drawings.
Right.
Because one of the things that we do quite a bit of commercial work, and it's, so you spend a lot of time doing takeoffs and reading the drawings that another landscape architect has done.
Hmm.
And I've turned projects away because they're just horrible drawings. And like, I don't even want to do this job because if the drawings are this bad, who knows what else they've missed, and that'll all come
Absolutely.
back on me as the contractor.
Hmm.
So when I start seeing that stuff, I'm telling these junior people in the office, hey, you can't do this, and like you got to have drawings that are crystal clear. That the greatest compliment as a landscape architect is to have a contractor come up to you and say, hey, these are the best drawings I've ever seen.
Nice.
And your details all match up. All the labels are right and they're linked properly and there's no spelling errors. And I know it's goofy stuff, it's not designy, but it gets the project built right.
Right.
And it makes a difference.
Yeah.
So if I can be that kind of mentor, that teacher that gets somebody there, that makes me really happy.
Hmm. I know that sometimes too, and I remember this at studying landscape design at Fanshawe, something that they really drilled into us is it's one thing to design in 2D, right? You look at the flat piece of AutoCAD paper, Dynascape, SketchUp, whatever,
Yep.
and it looks beautiful on a flat surface.
Yeah.
Maybe it's got all these curves and but then if you were to pull that in 3D, if you haven't designed in 3D, it's just flat.
Yeah.
We're not designing paintings. And that was a big hurdle for I think some of the students in the class because they came at it with an art mindset as if they
Yeah.
were creating a piece of art, and it is art,
Yeah.
but it's sculpture on paper.
Hmm.
There is more dimension to it than just what the surface looks like.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And we also, as humans, we don't walk through our landscapes like a bird. So when we look at these 2D plans, we're looking down on it bird's eye view, and it might look gorgeous. But have we considered what it actually looks like to traverse this space like a person? Because we are not flying over this
Yeah.
property.
It's
We're
more of
living
that
in it.
axonometric view. You gotta you got to tip the paper like this a little bit when you're looking at it.
Right. Absolutely. I've got a few plans in mind. I'm trying to build my own little bit of a library in SketchUp so that the 3D has anyway, I talk too much. I shouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't want to put my foot in my mouth in case it doesn't actually come to be. So let's go on to the next thing. So some favorite plants of yours. You're talking about woody flowering plants. This
Yeah.
was something that you put on your questionnaire. You tend to put hydrangeas in a lot of your
Yeah, I love
designs.
hydrangeas.
Yep. So have you got specific favorite hydrangeas? Like I'm gonna plant nerd out a little bit here for a
There's a,
second.
and you know what? I'm pretty plain Jane when it comes to that stuff. I like the
Yep.
Annabelle because it is
Yep.
bulletproof. You know, the
It
only
is.
problems I ever had with that was a little bit of black spot on the leaves, and that's just during humid times. But for the most part, they're bulletproof.
Yep.
I like the oak leaf because they're a little funkier. You know, and there's some other ones that have some nice, you know, the panicles on the leaves and so on. But I fall back on the Annabelle because it is so bulletproof.
Tried and true.
Yep.
You can pretty much put that anywhere and it's gonna do just fine.
Yeah, and a lot of my plant palette is stuff like that, and it's a matter of
Right.
using it together to come up with the
Yeah.
interesting thing.
Yeah, it's one thing to be funky as a designer, right? I do consider myself to be a little funky, and I do like
There's
the
nothing
weird and
wrong with
wonderful
funky.
plants, right? But there are reasons why some plants are used over and over and over again
Yeah,
because they work
yeah.
and they last and they're low maintenance and they're tough.
But you know, that's something that I learned from the junior designers that come through my office is broadening my plant palette.
Right.
And you know, I used to spend time walking through the nursery and oh, what's new? And I make a point of, you know, dropping one plant or dropping a handful of plants and adding some plants to my palette. I haven't done that in a while, so now it's more you know, when a junior designer is working with me, they'll bring on some plants that they want to use, and I said that's fine. You can bring on all kinds of stuff. There's some stuff that I'm
Yeah.
going to say no, you can't use because
Yep.
I hate it. And I'll give them my reasons, but for the most part, it's you know that's how I'm kind of broadening my palette. So, and
Right.
it's kind of fun.
So I had a couple for you because I was as soon as you said flowering woody plants, I was like, oh, okay. I just want to like chat plants for a second.
Yeah,
So have you tried the low scape mound aronia, the aronia melanocarpa from NVK?
I've used Aronia for many years, but it's always been the what's the Aronia melanocarpa. It was the black beauty and the red beauty were the ones that
Yeah,
I
and they're
used.
big. So
Yeah.
the low scape mound stays like a foot by foot.
Well, I'm gonna have to try that out because I love Aronia.
It's the low scape mound is one of my favorite
Yeah,
cultivars.
I'll
So
have
I
to
was
try
going
that
to
because
throw
it's
that one
got
out
that
there.
nice little glossy green leaf and the little
Yep.
berry and the little white flower.
Fall color. You've
Yeah.
got the flowers, you've got the berries. It's a nativar, right? So it checks off a whole lot of
The
boxes.
other one that comes to mind to me that I started using more and more is fragrant sumac
Yep.
because it's got color and it's actually got a little bit of fragrance to it, and it's
Yeah.
nice for an area that needs some a tough plant.
Yep. And a lot of people, I think, are kind of scared, I want to say, or resistant to sumac,
Yeah, because
but
they can take off.
yep, there are some that are very aggressive, right?
Yeah,
They will spread.
yeah,
But the fall color on the
yeah.
leaves, the
Well,
winter
exactly.
interest,
Yeah,
it is so sculpturally interesting.
yeah,
And it's such a benefit to a lot of our pollinators and birds. So
yeah, for sure.
it's a good one. The other one I was going to mention was Father Gilla.
I don't use a
This
lot
one.
of that, but I see it in some designs that I do for other people or that I'm quoting on from other people. But
Okay, that's another one of my favorites. It's
yeah,
got the white bottle brush, flowers in the
yeah,
spring. Um, the flower dies and the leaves come in, and then it turns more silver throughout the
yeah.
summer. And then the fall color is some that I've never seen before. Like just you get burgundies, reds, oranges, yellows,
Wow,
everything on one plant, which
that's
is
cool.
really cool.
That is cool.
And then the other one I was going to mention was there is a new, and of course I'm not going to remember who has it, but there's a new hydrangea and it's a ground cover. Did you see
Okay,
this?
I have not, but that's a great idea.
Yeah, so it is a spreader. So it does fill in. I'm just going to see if I can find it really quick. I should have done that ahead of time. Um, yeah, it's called Groundbreaker. Groundbreaker hydrangea. I'm trying to think of who was producing it, but nope, I can't find it. So I'm gonna have to put it in the description later. But yes, there is a new, I guess, ground cover hydrangea, which
I'll have to
is
check that one out.
really exciting.
Yeah.
So, um, so for tools, I think you were the first person on the interview questionnaire to mention the Dutch hoe
Yeah, the Dutch
because
hoe.
that is a really good tool. Like that is
Oh, it
one of
is. I
my
love it.
staples, and a lot of people don't know what it is.
No, it looks like a
So,
stirrup. It's got a blade and it's a hoe that's for weeding. Now, it's like any hoe, you're cutting the weed off. You're not getting
yep,
all the root. But man, is it quick.
so
And
quick.
I watched my maintenance guys pulling weeds and they're down there pulling individual weeds and I'm like, guys, you gotta get going faster than this.
Yep,
We got an acre to do here. You gotta be quick.
yeah,
You get the action hoe they call it. You get that
yep.
going back and forth and it works in both directions and oh
So I think if I'm correct, because I primarily use the Dutch hoe, but the action hoe is better if you have mulch because it's got like a blade that's more of a circle, so
yeah,
the mulch can flow back and forth.
yeah,
Where the Dutch hoe is more for garden beds that aren't mulched or areas that might be gravel or something like
yeah.
that, where you just want to scrape the surface.
Is it more like is it a different shape then?
The Dutch hoe is just a single blade, so you've got
Single
the
blade, okay. Because
like the
I was always
similar,
thought that action hoe was a Dutch hoe.
and
So
maybe they are the
maybe they're
same.
same.
So
Uh,
I always think of the Dutch hoe as just
Goes
being a
back
single
to
blade, where the action hoe has two-sided.
it's
There's like a
like
blade on
a
both sides.
yeah.
So that's
When
the back and forth.
when I was a kid, my grandfather was a garden like he had vegetable gardens that
Mhm.
second to none. Like he lived through the Depression, and so growing your own food was really important. So he had two big, huge vegetable gardens.
Yeah.
And he had this hoe that he weeded with, and it was worn down, and he would be out there with a file sharpening it up, and it was like he always had just that hoe. And I remember when he died when he was 95 years old, but I think he's probably was buried with that
Yeah.
hoe.
You know, tools are made to last.
That's right.
They are. So
Yeah,
they stay with us for a long time.
yeah.
Speaking of, you gotta have a pair of Falco 2s that you've had for 25 years.
Yeah, when I
That's
started
impressive.
with the right company when I was maybe I had them before that. But I'm pretty sure I probably got them when I started with the right company and I bought my Falcos and I still have them. The leather carrying case has rotted away.
Wow.
But I still have the Falcos and they're in the door pocket in my truck and I've used them as wire cutters and pipe cutters and cutting
Yep.
wire baskets and the whole bit, but I sharpen them on occasion and they still work.
Yeah. Our Falcos, that is something I have a friend actually who he has he always wears a belt and his Falcos are always on the belt,
Yeah.
even when he's not gardening.
Yeah.
So it's so funny because I'll meet him for lunch or something and he walks in and he's got his
Get the
Falcos
red
on.
handle sticking
I
up.
was like, "Were you working today?" He's like, "No.
Yeah.
Why?" I'm like, "You got your Falcos on." It's like, "They're always on. What are you
Yeah.
talking about?"
Yeah.
Right? You can see a gardener from a mile away. Um, so a couple of things I still wanted to talk to you about. It's so funny how time just seems to fly on these things. It's
Yeah.
just so great hearing all of the things that you have to share. But I loved how I always like to ask, what's everybody's, or as a guest, what's your biggest achievement or success? And you said you're most proud of raising two amazing kids.
Yeah.
That is a big achievement.
It is.
I,
Seeing them go off into the world.
yeah. As
Yeah.
someone who decided very young, I mean, I remember playing house with my brothers
Yeah.
and they all wanted to be the dad with the baby. And I was like, I'm going to work. Like that was me playing house with the kids or
Yeah.
with my brothers. So I knew very young that I didn't quite have the mom gene. I more
Yeah.
have the crazy aunt gene,
There's nothing wrong with that.
right? I think
I,
kids
I
need
I
a
get to be the
crazy
crazy
aunt.
uncle too. I've got nieces and nephews that
Amazing.
yeah.
So, and what do your kids do?
So I have a 15-year-old boy who, like you, has ADHD
Yep.
and is all over the place. He's a tough one to keep pointed in the right direction, but he's a good kid. My daughter's 18 and she just finished high school, did not want to go to university.
Yep.
She struggled in her last semester and, just didn't want to do any more school. So I said, well, if you're not going to school, you got to work.
Yep.
No sitting around. And so I made some introductions for her, and she got a job working for a local construction company
Awesome.
as a junior project coordinator. And she didn't know what she wanted to do in life, but she loves project management now
Hmm.
and loves her job, loves the people, and now wants to go to Conestoga College and take their construction management course.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's just about, you know, pointing them in the right direction. And
Yep.
I've said to her, you may not want to do this forever, but if you like it now, do it.
Yeah, run with it.
And the fact that she actually wants to go to school and do it is pretty cool. And she came to me the other day, and I had to help her with her. She wanted me to help her with her application, and so I was doing that. And she said, the um, the other project coordinators in the office, she said when they finished school and became project coordinators, she said within 2 years they bought their own houses.
Hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, so you make lots of money doing this, right? And she goes, yeah, and this is so much fun. And I'm like, to be actual, like what we're doing, to enjoy what you're doing, be passionate about it, and make money doing it.
Yep.
It's, what more can you ask for? So it's
Y-
pretty exciting to see that she turned that leaf from being confused to, confused 18-year-old not knowing what she wanted to do with her life to
Yeah.
actually now understanding what she wants to do. So
Kind of sounds like it's coming full circle because you said you also didn't necessarily enjoy school.
yeah, yeah, I saw that too. And then when she said I didn't want to go to school, I said, that's fine,
Hmm.
don't. And she was
Yep.
surprised. She's like, well, parents are always pushing people to go to school. I'm not. I didn't want to go.
Hmm.
If I hadn't gone, I would have got into construction, and I
Yep.
probably would have ended up being a project manager
Hmm.
because I
It,
enjoyed that side of my job.
it's so interesting, the world of project management, because
Yeah,
I was a volunteer theater kid for 24 years.
yeah,
And it wasn't until I had a conversation with landscape architect Ron Cowdice in Italy
yeah,
while we were there for school studying that he mentioned that what I was doing in theater was project management.
yeah,
I had never, it wasn't until that moment where, again, that right person comes along at the right time and you see something for the first time.
yeah.
And it was
I
like,
like to
holy
say the
smokes,
mist's
the
clear.
mist clear,
All of a sudden,
very dramatic.
you see what was in front of you all that time.
And before then, I was just kicking myself thinking I had wasted 24 years,
Yeah,
that I had no real life experience, that nobody was going to hire me. And then dear old Ron, he's like,
yeah,
so you organize people, you rent the theater, you pay all of the people who come in that build the sets, you
yeah,
hire people, you hold auditions, you select the script, you hire the cast and the crew. That's project management. I was like,
yeah,
well, darn it. It is,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
So, oh man. So we are just about out of time. So I'm just going to have to bring you on for a part two, Dave. That's what this
That's
comes
okay.
down
We can
to.
do that.
Perfect. But I'm always wondering what people are reading, or books that have changed the way they look at business or life, personal, professional development. Um, I I would say that I'm a book collector, but if I'm honest, I'm more like a book hoarder. But my bookshelf is behind my desk, so the camera can't actually see my floor to ceiling bookshelf. Um, but anyway, so there was a couple of books that you mentioned. One was Built to Sell, and the
Yeah,
other one was The One Thing.
the
So,
one
what are
thing.
these two books for you? How did these
So
make a shift for you?
they were both books that we were asked to read as part of our peer group. Um, the one thing is by Jay Papasan and um,
Gary
Keller,
Keller.
Gary Keller,
Yep.
from Keller Williams. So they were the
Okay.
founders of Keller Williams. The one thing is a way of thinking on prioritizing
Huh.
prioritizing work. And their mantra out of that book is, and if I see if I get it right, is what is the one thing that if you do it makes everything else either irrelevant or either or easier.
Hmm.
So the whole book talks about how to boil down all the things that you're doing
Right.
into the one thing. And if you can do that one thing, it makes
Everything
this,
else
or all of a
easier.
sudden this gets
Hmm.
easier. And it's the domino effect. And they talk about the domino effect.
Right.
Another thing that I got out of that book that was an interesting concept was work-life balance,
Hmm.
and that it doesn't exist, and that it's not supposed to exist. And I'm then thinking, well, everyone always striving for that.
Uh-huh.
And in reality, if you look at, and this is the way they talk about it, and one of Einstein's theory is that, I can't remember what it is, but anyways, balance. Nothing happens in balance. Things happen when they're in motion. So
Right.
you think of work-life balance. If you have balance, you're bored as hell.
Stasis, right?
Yeah,
Perfectly
yeah.
balanced means nothing's up,
So
nothing's
you got to
down.
think of it as a pendulum. So
Hmm.
you've got work over here and you've got family over here, and you got to swing it. So you got a big project, you got to work some all-nighters, you got to get it done, you're way over here, and you neglect your family. But you build an amazing project, it gets done, but then you have to realize, I got to swing it back the other way. So you
Right.
intentionally swing the pendulum back the other way, and then you do family things.
Mm-hmm.
You go on a trip, you spend 2 or 3 weeks traveling in Europe or something like that. You have some most amazing experiences that you would ever have. You would never have those in balance
Right.
because work would be in the way. You're in family zone. You're not thinking about work. You're having these amazing experiences,
Yeah.
but you can't do that forever because you got to go back to work. So you got to spin the pendulum back in the other direction. So it's just another
Huh.
way of thinking about, like, why strive for balance when nothing happens in balance?
Right.
Think about what happens at the extremes, because that's where all the great stuff happens, is at the extremes.
Hmm. And there's
So
something to be said too, like we already know, in terms of psychology, that we actually can't multitask.
yeah,
What people can do is maybe switch from task to task quickly,
yeah,
but there is no multitasking. So if you're on a
correct.
family vacation, be on the family vacation. Turn
Yeah,
off the phone. Stop taking
yeah,
those calls.
absolutely.
It's distracting you from that family time. So that's
Yeah,
really interesting. I like this visualization of the pendulum,
yeah.
right? It's not so much balance as it is, okay, we're over here now, but
So
now
many
it's time to make the
people spend
switch.
so much time talking about striving for work-life balance, and I don't believe it exists, and I don't believe it should exist.
Right. I'm
No.
also one who I don't know how to eloquently put it into words, but with this concept of work-life balance, I think it's very easy. Maybe it's an employee mindset. So excuse me while I try and work this out here in my brain. Um, but work-life balance isn't the whole purpose of work to live.
Yeah,
So it's not about doing one more than the other. I think maybe that's where the balance comes in. But we should be doing our work in order to pay our bills, cover our needs, right? We know the Maslow's hierarchy of
yeah.
needs, make sure that those are covered so that we can live, enjoy life, spend quality time with the people that we love. But if you're going to spend 60 years of your life working, don't you want it to be something that brings you joy,
That's exactly it.
that's
And I think that's
rewarding?
why when you find someone who is passionate and loves their job and has a career that they're very passionate about, you're no longer living, you're no longer working to live.
Mm-hmm.
You're now, in some cases, living to work because you love what you're doing. And again, balance doesn't work there either.
Yeah.
But you also can't always be working because you're stuck out at this extreme and it ruins the rest of your life.
That is
So
a slippery slope.
you have to swing it. No matter which camp you're in, you still have to swing that pendulum.
Yeah. Especially for entrepreneurs, because we
Yeah.
do get passionate, right? We dive
Yeah. And
right
you get
in.
stuck.
And
You
then we
get stuck in a
realize,
business.
holy smokes, like I haven't slept in 6 days
Yeah.
because I'm so in on this project or in on XYZ. We get a little
And then
obsessed passionate.
the other book that I mentioned there was Built to Sell by
Yep.
John Whirlwitz. Um, he's Canadian. He had a tech company in Toronto, I guess, that he ended up selling. But he wrote a story. The book Built to Sell is a story about a guy who is struggling in business. It's very identifiable as a business owner. struggling with the day-to-day stuff, and then he decides he wants to sell the business and realizes that it's not worth anything,
Hmm.
and then goes through all the steps of making it, adding value to the business and looking out for the employees, because the employees are a big part of the business. And when you're selling a business, um, you want the company to carry on with your employees.
Right.
And so it's just a very interesting book on it. And I listened to his podcasts over and over. He's got all kinds of interesting, um, or people, guests come on his podcast, and he talks about how they sold their business and the pitfalls they went through, the good and the bad and the ugly of selling your business.
Yeah.
But it all started with that book. And it really,
Hmm.
I want to sell my business in the future, and I don't want to make a mistake doing it. I want to do it right. I want to sell it to the right people that want to carry on that name for another, we're 58 years this year, so I'd like it to carry it on a
Wow.
little bit longer. So,
Yeah.
and part of that is making sure that it's valuable.
Yeah. I know a lot of times companies think that the company is very valuable, or the business is really valuable because of maintenance.
Yeah.
But the maintenance contracts, if they are on a year by year basis,
You got a
there's no
multi-year.
guarantee
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
there's
Got to be a multi-year
right?
contract, and snow is king too. So,
Okay, that's a really good piece of advice. Multi-year
yeah.
contracts.
Yeah.
Like that. So lastly, before I let you go, I wanted to ask you about a piece of advice for somebody who's just getting into the business or thinking about starting their own business. And what I really liked is something that you said about, knowing your why. Why are you getting into business? Is it just to have more benefits or to make more money or have more freedom? Or are you in this for something else? So can you talk a little bit about that?
So often when someone says, should I go into business? Or I see someone starting up a business and they're really good at what they do as say a foreman on a maintenance crew. And now
Yeah.
they want to go start their own business. And I just shake my head and I say, why are you doing this?
You're a really
You're
good
really
foreman.
good at what you're doing,
Yeah.
but you really want to run a business? And because business is a struggle, being at the top, it's not easy. And you have to be cut out to do that. And that's why so many businesses fail.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to run a business. You have to have a team, and you don't get a team until your company is big enough to have one. So you got to put in a lot of hours before you get to the point where you've got that team that runs the business.
Right.
And until then, it's all on you. So, you gotta, like, if you, there are people out there, and I'm not one of them, that are a driven entrepreneur,
Yeah.
or a serial entrepreneur, and they're just going to go from one business to the next, and they're always going to be running or starting businesses, selling businesses. Those are the people that need to run businesses because they're wired to do that. The
Mm-hmm.
rest of us were operators that kind of fell into it, and some of us are good at it, some of us are not. And I just like to look at some of those people out there that became business owners for the wrong reason, because they thought they were going to make more money. They thought they were going to, yes, you get some more freedom,
Yep.
but at what cost?
Right.
You get freedom of being able to do what you want within the parameters of, you got all these bills to pay and these other mouths you have to feed because you've got
Mm-hmm.
employees now and their families. And it's a lot to carry. It's a big burden, but it has its rewards.
Yep.
Um, but certainly my advice to a new business owner is to know, why are you doing it? Because you got to know that it's the right reason. If you're passionate about something, you may be able to have a better job by just sitting down and talking to your boss and say, hey, this is what I want to do. And then next thing you know, you become the number two in the company, making more money, heading the same direction without all the risk.
Yep.
And that's what people don't realize, that there's a lot of risk in running your own business.
Trying to think of there's a term for being within a company and almost being an intrapreneur. I think
Yep.
that's the term,
Yep.
intrapreneur.
Yep.
So within a business, if you're an employee and you love what you do, but you have a big vision, you have ideas. If there's someone in upper management or ownership that you can confide in, that you can have a conversation with, there might be room for growth there without you taking the risk of starting a whole new business.
And it might not be in that business.
Right.
it might be in the one across the street.
Yep. And hopefully somebody who's in management, the person that you confide in, has that awareness and has that
And a good
ability
business
to.
owner, someone who knows what they're doing, will identify that in somebody and, oh, you're my next general manager. Because, I'm at the point where I need a general manager in my company, and I'm just looking for that person to pop their head up and say, hey, it's me, it's me, it's me.
Right. Okay. Well, hopefully they'll tune into your podcast and maybe feel a little inspired to do so.
Yeah.
So, Dave, with that, I'm going to finish up our episode. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you a little bit more. I'm sure I'm going to see you around. You're going to be at the peer-to-peer event on the 4th?
I'm going to try and get out there, yep.
Excellent. Well, hopefully I will see you then. But Dave, until next time, I look forward to part 2.
Great talking to you.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. Cheers.
That concludes this week's episode, hosted by me, Heather Gerard at My Landscape Artist. Now, before you go, here's some info about our sponsor, ext.tech. In today's fast-paced world, your landscaping business needs modern solutions to keep up with the change. That's where EXT comes in. EXT is revolutionizing the way you manage projects and streamlines your landscaping, snow removal, and construction operations. Instead of juggling 5 different software packages, endless spreadsheets, losing track of leads, and missing out on potential sales, you could be leveraging AI job routing, client management, and financial insights with a modern mobile app that employees love to use. With EXT's flat rate pricing, you'll never be caught off guard. If you're ready to revolutionize and grow your landscaping business, visit ext.tech today to learn more. And for additional savings, use the code HOPS10 at checkout, or just tell them that Heather sent you. See you next week for another episode of Hops and Hedges.